libraries are essential for the education of young people. And I'm very pleased to say our next speaker will be Mr. Tom Coen, who is the head teacher of St John Payne School. He also happens to be my boss. So can you give him a big round of applause, please, Mr. Tom Coen?
Good afternoon, it's lovely to be here this afternoon with you, and thank you for that introduction, Andy, and thank you to Andy and anybody involved in organising this, and indeed all of the work that has led up to today. I know we last met in February, where I spoke just up the road in town, and I shared something about the beginning of my own relationship with libraries, which began in Westcliff-on-Sea, competing with my brothers to find out which of us would be the first to complete the Asterix and Obelix books. Wonderful anticipation of our weekly visits with our mum to Westcliff Library, where we would anticipate taking out the next Asterix book. Taught me a little bit about very, very basic Latin, taught me a bit about France, taught me a bit about Roman invasion, and we could go on in terms of talking about the richness of the gifts that we receive from our libraries. Now, speaking on behalf of all the city's head teachers, and by extension, everybody involved in education across the city, we have deep concerns about the proposed cuts to our libraries. I appreciate that our city's proximity to London, our city's affluence, we only need to go on a drive out to the city to see the new builds springing up in various quarters of the city and in its surrounding areas. We know that many of us will have professional careers. Many of our young people's parents will have at least one or two parents who work in the city. There's a lot of affluence and privilege in this city and its surrounding areas. It would be easy to make the mistake of thinking that therefore libraries are becoming a redundant resource, because our young people have got access to information via other means, via electronic means, smartphones, laptops, computers, tablets, all of which give us wonderful access to information. But I was interested to read recently about some research that proved that our ability to retain information when we are reading it in a book, when we are losing ourselves in a book for a few hours, and we don't talk about that phrase when we're talking about electronic devices, do we? We don't lose ourselves in our electronic devices. We don't while away a few hours. It's a different relationship that we have with physically holding a book in our hands and turning the pages. I was interested to hear that this research proves that our ability to retain the information, to reflect upon it, to consider it and challenge it, and for it to resonate deep within us, is far increased when we are holding a book as opposed to a tablet. Now, we in education know that young people, some of our young people, do not grow up in homes that have books on the shelves. Some of our young people talk about having had a book once. Some of our young people don't have a space in their homes where they can work and study and do their homework. And at the moment we're in the midst of the examination season. Year 11 and 12 and 13 students are in the midst of GCSE and A-level examinations. Not every one of those young people has access to a dedicated revision space in the homes. I'm sure that we would all appreciate that with the busy lives that we lead, with parents, in most families both would be working, in a family that might have 2, 3 or even 4 children, it's difficult to find that quiet space. Anybody that's ever lived in a family of young people in it will know that. So many of our young people don't have that luxury. They need our libraries. They need these spaces of quiet where they can take time away and dedicate themselves to what is vital study. If we in our roles as educators are going to support these young people to fulfill their potential and ensure that this city can look forward to a rich and vibrant future, and that future can be sustained and safeguarded by future generations, our libraries are essential. And I believe the policy any policy that would represent cuts or closures needs to be given significant and serious reconsideration. Because if our libraries close, the city is the less. Before we came here this afternoon, my wife said to me, "You're not going to do your To Kill a Mockingbird quote again, I think that's all you've got." But it bears repeating. It's from one of my favourite novels. Scout, the narrator, a young girl fears that she is going to be denied the chance to read with her father every evening. She fears that her teacher is going to deny her that opportunity, and she shares her fears with her father, Atticus. And they come to an agreement that yes, Scout will still be able to read with her father every night. And later in her room, Scout reflects and she says, "Until I feared I would lose it, I never loved to read. One does not love to breathe." For Scout, the ability to read was her very lifeblood. I believe it is that for all of us, and that is why our libraries must remain open.
Yeah.